contatto con la federazione, le numerose aziende che sono collegate e che sono iscritte a questo webinar, e sapete che anche dall'agenda che vi è stata distribuita sarà suddiviso in due parti. Una prima parte dove verranno appunto illustrati i punti salienti di uno studio di settore che FederUnacoma ha commissionato quest'anno all'ufficio ICE di Toronto in Canada, appunto sul settore delle macchine agricole nel mercato canadese, che è stato già distribuito alle aziende associate a FederUnacoma, è stato già anche oggetto di un webinar lo scorso 7 luglio. A seguire ci sarà una seconda parte moderata dalla giornalista Kathleen Kizan del Glacier Farm Media, dove interverranno 4 rappresentanti importatori canadesi di macchine agricole. Tra l'altro hanno fatto parte di una delegazione di operatori canadesi che è stata ospitata dall'agenzia ICE in occasione della recente edizione di EMA International. Quindi qualcuno anche di voi immagino che l'abbia conosciuti in occasione degli incontri B2B. Ora, prima di passare la parola al direttore dell'ufficio ICE Canada, Marco Saladini, vorrei darvi alcuni elementi sul mercato canadese, ovviamente per quanto riguarda le macchine agricole. Innanzitutto noi siamo come Italia il quinto paese fornitore di macchine agricole per quanto appunto riguarda il Canada, e tra l'altro secondo i dati Istat nei primi 8 mesi di quest'anno il nostro export, che è stato un poco superiore a 61 milioni di euro, è cresciuto di ben il 22,4% rispetto al medesimo periodo dell'anno scorso, dove l'export si era attestato intorno ai 50 milioni. Tra le categorie di macchine italiane che vengono maggiormente vendute sul mercato canadese troviamo le macchine per la raccolta, le macchine per gli allevamenti, le macchine per la forestazione, trattrici, e poi a seguire prima lavorazione post raccolta e il settore delle macchine per la semina, il trapianto e la concimazione. Come ho detto prima, questo studio è stato già oggetto di un seminario lo scorso 7 luglio, è stato distribuito appunto a tutte le aziende associate e sarà poi reso disponibile anche alle altre aziende da parte dell'ICE agenzia. E oggi sono collegati qui anche non solo le aziende associate a FederUnacoma, ma anche tutte le aziende italiane del settore della meccanizzazione agricola. Fatta questa debita premessa, io ho il piacere di passare la parola a Marco Saladini, direttore dell'ufficio ICE del Canada, il quale ci illustrerà quelli che sono i punti salienti di questo studio di settore sulle opportunità sul mercato canadese per quanto riguarda appunto la meccanizzazione agricola. Marco, a te la parola, grazie.
Grazie mille Fabio, grazie anche di tutto il lavoro che è stato fatto per dare alla comunità della meccanizzazione agricola italiana un po' il senso delle opportunità in Canada, lavoro che tu hai sapientemente riassunto. Insomma, i passaggi fondamentali sono quelli che tu hai appena detto e noi abbiamo cercato di renderci utili in questo senso il più possibile, anche perché diciamo c'è stato un rapporto di collaborazione molto sentita, molto diciamo frequente con l'associazione, quindi questo ha portato a una sinergia importante. Insomma, io metto su la presentazione, alcuni conosceranno già il mercato canadese, quindi magari alcune delle cose sono più scontate, ma partiamo insomma come dire dall'inizio. Thanks to all who don't speak Italian for their patience. We will revert to English after this presentation, but I guess some of the data that we're presenting will be immediately visible and understandable to everyone, thanks to charts and graphics and etc. Let me put this, fatemela mettere in modalità schermo intero, qua. Quindi va bene, allora innanzitutto qualche notizia sul Canada nel complesso, insomma sul paese Canada nel complesso. Abbiamo un paese davanti che ha una superficie complessiva enorme, ma nella quale naturalmente gioca molto la componente terre coltivabili e terre non coltivabili, quindi chiaramente su 10 milioni di chilometri quadrati, insomma la superficie coltivabile è soltanto una parte. E un paese comunque avanzato e con un PIL pro capite molto importante e che vede anche un momento di crescita forte, anche se si profilano all'orizzonte anche delle ombre, ma per il momento sono più le luci, sono più importanti e più visibili le luci, perché la crescita è comunque oltre il 4%, e anche con un'inflazione al 6,9%, insomma la disoccupazione resta bassa, diciamo intorno al 5,2%, quindi insomma un insieme di fondamentali che, se non fosse per la nota dell'inflazione, ancora lascerebbe molto spazio all'ottimismo. Per quanto riguarda l'agricoltura, qui naturalmente le slide hanno molte più informazioni di quelle che si possono raccontare, e quindi poi le potrete guardare con calma, ma insomma vedete come ciascun territorio di questo enorme paese ha una specializzazione che va dagli animali selvatici al nord alle colture estensive al centro, con una maggiore prevalenza di colture intensive nelle aree costiere o comunque più vicine alla costa dell'est e dell'ovest. Questo in due parole, insomma, a descrivere comunque è una complessità, un'articolazione comunque molto ampia. Come vedete, la superficie coltivabile è di quasi 69 milioni di ettari, e è il 6,9% del territorio, quindi come dicevamo prima, insomma, poi bisogna ridimensionare un po', ma rimane comunque una superficie enorme, con anche un'importantissima superficie forestale che occupa il 38,7% del paese, e si estende per 346 milioni di ettari, quindi una superficie enorme dal punto di vista anche delle foreste. E per quanto riguarda la tipologia delle aziende agricole, abbiamo che ben il 18% ha una superficie disponibile di oltre 500 ettari, quindi ci sono molte imprese di piccole dimensioni, ma anche, relativamente parlando rispetto ad altri paesi, anche molte imprese che hanno una superficie ampia e la utilizzano quindi per colture estensive. Infatti vedete che il paese è il primo nella produzione di lenticchie, di canola, di mostarda e di lino. Si compara a un altro paese importante per questi raccolti, come la Turchia, con un fattore di 2 cioè doppio dell'output turco. E è un paese dove si consuma anche molta carne, terzo per consumo pro capite dopo Stati Uniti e Brasile, anche se la produzione è diciamo il 14° produttore, quindi c'è anche sono anche correnti di scambi con l'estero. E vediamo anche che l'ammontare, proprio il volume di produzione e naturalmente quindi alla superficie per le colture estensive sono molto molto rilevanti. Si parla di 21-22 milioni di tonnellate di grano, di 12 milioni di tonnellate di canola, fieno 13,7 milioni di tonnellate, insomma voglio dire sono numeri molto molto consistenti. E le colture in serra stanno prendendo piede, occupavano nel 2021 una superficie di 3.000 ettari, e una superficie che era aumentata del 21% nel quinquennio, diciamo dal 2016 al 2021, quasi 4.800 serre sempre nel 21, e con una superficie media di 0,62 ettari una prevalenza delle province Ontario e British Columbia, seguita immediatamente dal Quebec. Quindi queste 3 province, che sono poi le 3 province più attive anche in questo ambito, sono quelle più rilevanti. E per quanto riguarda invece gli ortaggi, abbiamo una superficie di oltre 106.000 ettari, e con Ontario e Quebec in questo caso che insieme detengono una quota del 90% delle colture, quindi questo sia in termini di superfici sia in termini di produzione. Questo è un flash rapidissimo, insomma, poi naturalmente come vedete ci sono anche molti approfondimenti e molti dati più di dettaglio per capire dove si può andare, dove è utile stare, perché poi alla fine queste informazioni noi le riportiamo anche per contribuire ai vostri piani di commerciali, di business, insomma, e quindi per cercare di capire quali sono gli ambiti nei quali, data la vostra produzione, è più utile collocarsi, cercare di vendere. Non so perché non riesco a fare lo schermo, a fare lo schermo intero di questa presentazione, ma ci devo riuscire, un attimo solo. Va bene, andiamo avanti mi dispiace, ma non ho avuto successo in questo tentativo di allargare un po' la slide, spero che si veda lo stesso.
Marco,
sì.
scusa se ti interrompo, se fai sotto View e metti Slideshow, nelle funzioni View, metti Slideshow, ce la
Ecco.
dovresti riuscire.
Sì, facevo full screen e evidentemente non era il tasto giusto. Grazie James, scusate.
Prego.
Andando avanti, appunto, vediamo come, appunto, parlando di dove collocarsi, di come entrare nel mercato, insomma, vediamo come innanzitutto le reti di intermediazione sono articolate a livello provinciale o comunque per aree geografiche, quindi c'è una frammentazione, diciamo, territoriale che va considerata, quindi bisogna trovare la persona giusta o il rivenditore giusto nell'ambito territoriale giusto, quindi non ci sono reti necessariamente estese a tutto il paese, o non tutte sono estese a tutto il paese. E poi naturalmente bisogna vedere qual è il canale migliore per la propria produzione, per il proprio tipo di offerta, quindi se importatori, distributori, rivenditori, agenti. Qui abbiamo caratterizzato, diciamo, due gruppi, importatori, distributori e rivenditori, che hanno come d'abitudine, insomma, la possibilità di coprire i costi di spedizione e la possibilità anche di offrire assistenza tecnica, mentre gli agenti che si limitano a fare il deal, insomma, a propiziare la vendita, ma poi sono meno attivi o non sono attivi, appunto, nella parte spedizione e assistenza. Naturalmente ci sono anche molti altri servizi che possono essere reperiti in Canada e che sono quelli delle certificazioni, che peraltro sono disponibili anche in Italia, e del marketing, dove appunto poi noi vedremo cosa facciamo noi, ma ci sono naturalmente tanti altri attori. E per quanto riguarda diciamo la parte più diciamo la parte più concentrata e più, come dire, per quanto riguarda gli importatori e le imprese di trading più grosse, abbiamo fatto una piccola tabella qui che racconta quali dei settori della meccanizzazione agricola ciascuno copre, e come vedete nessuno è attivo in tutti, ma in particolare John Deere e CNH, come ben sappiamo, insomma, hanno una gamma molto ampia e quindi riescono a dare un servizio e un prodotto che sono applicabili in molti più settori. E per quanto riguarda la ricerca che abbiamo fatto, vorrei evidenziare come ci sia una parte originale che è stata realizzata dall'ufficio con dei questionari distribuiti a 270 aziende di distribuzione e vendita di macchinari e attrezzature agricole in tutto il paese. Questa è un'analisi fatta di recente e che proprio per la ricerca, quindi nel 2022, e che ha portato a censire innanzitutto i distributori dal punto di vista delle loro caratteristiche diciamo strutturali, delle loro imprese, insomma, come imprese. Quindi vediamo come la maggior parte siano medio, piccoli o medi, diciamo, almeno fra quelli che abbiamo intervistato, e poi ci sia un gruppetto, insomma, invece un po' più robusto, ma ci sono 170 imprese con meno di 50 impiegati. E questo naturalmente si riflette sul fatturato, dove vediamo una forte concentrazione nella fascia sotto ai 50 milioni di dollari canadesi. Tra i marchi italiani più rappresentati, vedete qui a sinistra, senza nominarli necessariamente, ma li riconoscete così a vista, ci sono questi 5 e comunque la maggior parte dei distributori di marchi italiani sono situati in Ontario, 47%, mentre Ontario e Quebec insieme rappresentano il 75% dei distributori che vendono marchi italiani, e questo ci fa pensare che forse l'Ovest potrebbe essere un pochino più come dire, sviluppato in termini di presenza presso i rivenditori. Comunque c'è ampio spazio, insomma, nel senso che solo il 16% dei distributori, quelli che hanno risposto al nostro sondaggio, ha un marchio italiano nella gamma. Per quanto riguarda la produzione e la vendita del Canada, diciamo che è una produzione comunque robusta, non indifferente. Ci sono 460 imprese che fanno macchine agricole, quindi c'è concorrenza anche interna in Canada, non è solo quella dei produttori di altri paesi diversi dal Canada, e naturalmente anche nella vendita all'ingrosso c'è una forte attività e che però appunto poi può essere in qualche modo di aiuto anche per le nostre imprese. I trend della meccanizzazione agricola, sicuramente il cambiamento tecnologico è stato seguito con attenzione e naturalmente hanno influito anche i prezzi delle commodities, che negli ultimi tempi hanno registrato significativi aumenti e quindi hanno consentito anche una nuova ondata di investimenti. Ci sarà una tendenza, c'è in corso e continuerà una tendenza all'aumento delle dimensioni medie delle aziende agricole e quindi al fatto che questo dovrebbe influire positivamente sulla domanda di tecnologia. Mentre altro fattore positivo è quello della CETA, che comunque ha ormai 5 anni, ma che ha consentito di abbattere tutti i dazi, le tariffe doganali, e quindi ha creato le condizioni per una concorrenza più paritaria, diciamo, fra imprese dei vari paesi che vendono in Canada e imprese canadesi stesse. Bassi tassi di interesse, questo è un fattore che ha giocato negli ultimi anni. Naturalmente adesso si sta ridimensionando perché la Banca del Canada, come le altre dei paesi occidentali, sta cercando di frenare l'inflazione alzando i tassi, e quindi questo è un po' meno attuale. E poi naturalmente c'è il punto della concentrazione della domanda, ma anche della diversificazione dell'offerta. Questi due fattori che giocano in maniera un pochino sinergica, insomma, che vanno considerati facendo il vostro piano di business. È vero comunque che c'è un focus maggiore su colture intensive, ortofrutticole anche di nicchia, e questo può rappresentare un fattore di traino per la domanda di attrezzature per questo tipo di coltivazione. E altro trend, magari non macro, però potrebbe essere quello delle colture in serra e verticali, perché nelle aree vicino alle città si sente un pochino la pressione sul territorio da parte dell'urbanizzazione, quindi si cerca di intensificare le rese. Per quanto riguarda le attività nostre dell'ICE, noi facciamo comunque un awareness survey che è uno studio ampio con quindi con una componente settoriale diciamo che si estende oltre le macchine agricole, copre 16 settori dei macchinari industriali, e emergono delle tendenze che vi lascerò poi studiare magari in dettaglio dopo, ma che comunque sono diciamo comuni anche a diversi settori. Per esempio il fatto della necessità di un servizio di assistenza per potersi affermare, e prezzo naturalmente come fattore non particolarmente rilevante a fronte di investimenti che devono durare nel tempo, e anche non fortissima rilevanza del paese di origine. Poi altre cose ve le lascio vedere con calma, anche perché non vorrei sforare troppo il mio tempo. Per entrare in Canada bisogna tenere presente che non si tratta di un solo mercato, ma di molti, e quindi che ciascuna provincia ha le sue particolarità in termini di normative, di sistema distributivo, di comportamenti di acquisto e altro. E bisogna tenere presente che è un mercato comunque piuttosto avanzato, e quindi dove c'è bisogno di una professionalità anch'essa avanzata, come ben sappiamo esprimere, e dove bisogna comunicare appunto in inglese, avere insomma presentarsi in modo professionale, ecco, come abbiamo detto. I fattori principali, insomma, le principali sfide per l'offerta italiana, come in altri paesi e come in altri settori, ma sono anche qui l'assistenza post-vendita, la scarsa visibilità, la capacità di riconoscere i marchi e di commercializzarli con le tecniche e con i canali adeguati. Insomma, quindi non tanto il prodotto, ma quello che c'è intorno. Qui abbiamo sintetizzato le riviste di settore, mentre sull'ICE che cosa devo dirvi? Siamo presenti in Nord America con 8 sedi, in particolare in Canada con 2, presto apriremo anche un punto di corrispondenza, cioè un piccolo ufficio a Vancouver, mentre gli altri 2 storici sono a Montreal e a Toronto. E quello che possiamo fare è naturalmente ben conosciuto da molti. Organizziamo attività di supporto alla commercializzazione e al marketing, e quindi quelle che vedete qui, la prima naturalmente è cercare delle controparti dei clienti, è quella più gettonata, ma non vanno sottovalutate anche le altre, che consentono di costituire una reputazione per il proprio marchio e avvicinare in modo mirato delle platee, non necessariamente uno a uno, ma anche in gruppi più ampi, e fra questi anche la visibilità sul web. E volevo ricordarvi anche machinesitalia.org, cioè machinesitalia.org, questo sito che abbiamo messo su ormai da tanto, insomma, che fa parte di un programma che è ormai ventennale, Machines Italia, dove vi consiglio caldamente insomma di aprire un vostro profilo, che è un'attività gratuita, e quindi di essere presenti, anche perché poi il sito viene pubblicizzato in molti modi, e anche vi chiedo se vi va e se vi interessa di interagire con le nostre pagine sui social media. Vi lascio ricordandovi che questa nota di mercato sarà disponibile su richiesta nei prossimi giorni. Lascio la versione integrale, la presentazione invece penso che la distribuiremo, manderemo a tutti i presenti, e passo la parola a Caitlin Kidson di Glacier Farm Media per il seguito di questo webinar. Grazie, e Caitlin, the floor is yours.
Awesome, thank you. Hi, everyone. I am Caitlin Kitsan, and I'm a farmer from Canada, as well as the business development specialist for our Discovery Farm and Events business unit within Glacier Farm Media. And I'm really excited to moderate this discussion with Canadian experts in agriculture manufacturing and distribution. I would ask that you keep your mics and cameras off so everybody can see our roundtable participants. If you have a question, please type it into the chat, and I will try to get to all questions. I do ask that you ask your question in English in the chat, just so I can understand it. If we do not get to your question through this session, we will follow up afterwards with you. To begin, I'm going to get each roundtable participant to introduce themselves. I'm going to ask them to say their name and who they are representing today and what expertise they are bringing to the table today. So we are going to start with Paul.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're good.
I'm Paul. I'm involved in large pivot irrigation and everything that goes with large pivot irrigation in all of southern Alberta. Have 4 dealerships across southern Alberta. We do specialize in the valley pivot, and with that though is all the other things, including pumps, PVC, wire, filters, all that kind of stuff. And we are in a very large irrigation part of the world, and it's a lot of high quality crops that are produced here. Sugar beets, potatoes, those are 2 of the really big ones. Alfalfa that gets shipped overseas, that's another big market. So we do have quite a variety of farmers too that we deal with over our entire region. Really happy with how everything's been looking. Farmers are coming off of very, very strong year. And the last couple of years have been very strong, and those that do have irrigation see consistent results. So irrigation continues to grow in this area. There was actually a vote yesterday to add 80,000 acres over the next that'll be at least a 5+ year project of irrigated acres in the market here. So we're very excited about being in what we are and what the future holds.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, irrigation has been a very important area for Canadian agriculture, especially Western Canadian agriculture. I know there's been also a lot of announcements here in Saskatchewan, where I'm based out of. So if you have irrigation equipment, it's a good place to go. Next up, I'm going to get Eric with Leading Edge Equipment to introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. We're an independent manufacturer rep of 30 different companies in Ontario, Quebec, and East Coast. It's owned by Wayne Graham and his daughter, Heather, who have 60 years experience in farming and in equipment. We sell wholesale goods, and we have a centrally located spot for parts. So that's always a big part of selling any machines. Make sure you have the follow-up after the fact.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. And I know you have some experience of bringing equipment in from other countries, so can answer some of those questions. Next up, I'm going to have Walter with Hydro Manitoba Ag introduce himself. Walter, I cannot hear or see you if you're trying to talk.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. You can't see me?
I can see you now too. It's perfect.
Sorry about that. Yeah, Hydro Ag Supply is the business name that we actually operate under. We are in Manitoba. We're a distributor in Manitoba. We do some importing. We haven't done a lot, but we specialize in selling equipment, hay rakes, and all kinds, feed mixers to the both grain farmers around here, and also we have a lot of dairy in the area. And we also we manufacture liquid manure equipment as well. and we sell that across Canada and also export into the US, which consists of a lot of pump units, hose reels, a lot of hoses and stuff. And so we do that as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Walter. And I think you guys are starting to see we've got some irrigation, some smaller crops in Eastern, dairy, livestock. Canada has many different sectors of agriculture. Last but not least, I'm going to get Nick to introduce himself.
Yes, good morning. Buongiorno. I'm Nick Quail. I'm president of the St. George Company Limited in Paris, Ontario. The firm was founded by my father in 1982. I bought him out 17 years ago. We've represented and imported Italian goods now for many years, and are still ongoing, and looking forward to a future as well.
Awesome, Nick. What kind of equipment do you specialize in?
We started mostly agricultural, and then we got into some construction and demolition as well. And then sort of same manufacturer, but we've also gotten into industrial respiratory protection. We found that many of our Italian suppliers made products that crossed over into other industries. And so we use this to enter other industries. We've not stayed entirely in agriculture.
Very interesting. Awesome. So we've got some really great experts from across this country. As you guys probably know, Canada is a very large and diverse country with all types of agriculture. You've heard a little bit from the cash crops, horticulture, livestock, and all of this kind of requires many different types of equipment. However, the participants joining today from Italy are very interested in knowing which kind of implements are more common in the Canadian market or maybe the larger markets. I know there was one question specific around fertilizer spreaders, and I would say, yes, we do need fertilizer spreaders, especially in Western Canada and I'm sure Eastern. So is there any, I guess, advice from our roundtable participants on kind of where maybe the equipment that Italy could provide Canada the most? And I'm just going to let you guys jump in here, whoever wants to take this one. Maybe Eric, just because I know you kind of have worked with 30 different manufacturers, you work across a lot of different equipments. Is there a larger market that you see?
Yeah, it's the biggest thing is a lot of times they have to suit the country you're going to. So like in Canada, for instance, we usually rely on bigger pieces of equipment, where some of the things are like, well, this is our unit is 6 meters, for instance. Well, that'd be a very small tillage tool for Canada. The other thing is it may be perfectly suited for Italian soils, but not totally set up for the Canadian market. So the different things I found that way. And it might be, they might have 30 different products on their lineup, but really only 3 or 4 really suit the Canadian market.
Yeah, no, those are really good points. I think it's understanding Canadian agriculture and our needs. My experience of some of my international travel, like you mentioned, Eric, is, you know, the smaller equipment. When we farm 10,000 acres, I'm not going to take a 10-foot tillage unit across, right? I'm looking for something a little bit larger. I guess this question I'm going to give kind of to Nick, just because it sounds like you have done a lot of work with Italy, but which aspect of the trading process should an Italian company put its attention to before looking for a Canadian dealer or distributor?
Come over here and get to know the country and realize there's a hell of a distance between Vancouver and Toronto. You can't do it in 3 hours. And also the population of the Maritimes. I remember an Italian distributor thought it's an enormous territory. It must be handled by many distributors. And I said, yes, but there's rocks and trees, and that's about it. Very few people. And so I would tell the Italian companies that we have a very big country, but relatively few people. And most of our population is close to the American border. The other is before I would launch into business, and this I give great gratitude to the Italian suppliers that I started off with, is that they took the time to get to know us and us to know them. And especially in my case, introduced me to Italy. So when I went over there for the first time, they made great effort to show me cultural things, to take me out to dinner, to sightsee, to get to know Italy, to understand them, to understand where they're coming from. And I found this helped immensely, this personal touch, to be introduced to the culture of this. You know, to me, Italy is a fascinating country, and I'm very grateful for this introduction, and it has helped us do business immensely.
Yeah, I think those are both really good. You know, come visit Canada, large country, and build relationships with the people here. Agriculture is a very small world in Canadian agriculture, and we all tend to be connected in somehow. I'm seeing a lot of questions in kind of the chat that I've been trying to Google Translate as we go through this. And there's a lot of questions around finding dealers, distributors in Canada. So I know probably Eric and I believe Paul, you guys might have some experience in this, but what's your advice on kind of finding dealers and distributors here within Canada?
I don't know exactly how they'd find a distributor. You kind of have to talk to the different ones that represent in the areas that you want to get into. But what your distributor does is they actually go out and find your dealers for you. So we do the legwork. We go out. I'm actually do sales and I'm on the road all the time. So I drive from Ontario to East Coast all the time, stopping in dealers, showing new products. And with how many we have, they're always asking us, well, what do you have new? What's a new product you guys are getting into? So we do that a little bit of legwork for people from Italy. And like right now, I have 5 companies from Italy. So.
Anything to add to that, Paul?
I would just say, you know, if you're looking for a distributor, that they are up and understand what the advantage might be. So for me, one of the big appealing things was how much less farmland there is and how much production is needed over there. So going to find out what maybe some of the new technologies and things like that are that could be adopted, and just maybe, you know, someone having that mindset of growth and trying to help grow your market.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it also comes down to coming to visit and getting to know the people, right? Getting to see some of our dealerships, some of our dealers, creating those relationships and connections. Moving more to a little bit of
another thing. If they do decide to come over, a good thing would be to come over and see one of our farm shows and just see the difference. Because going over and seeing EMA, I noticed how much of a difference things were than kind of what they are over here.
Yeah, and I'm going to, you know, maybe do a little bit of a plug for my company, but we have 2 of the largest farm shows within Canada. So we have Ag in Motion in Saskatchewan, and that show's really to showcase some large equipment in cash crops, especially suited for Western Canadian agriculture. And then we also have Canada's Outdoor Farm Show, and it's pretty close to Toronto, so that's an easy show to get to. And that has a little bit of dairy, and then a lot of cash crops as well, just a little bit on a smaller scale. So 2 great shows that we would love to host you at if you were planning on coming to Canada. And it's a great way to meet farmers, meet manufacturers, meet dealers, and so on. So
the show that's in Ontario, that I noticed you get a lot of people even from other provinces.
Yeah, Canada's Outdoor Farm Show also gets a lot of people from the States. We tend to pull quite a bit up from the United States, and then from other provinces as well, and same as the Saskatchewan show. So just for numbers, we saw over 30,000 farmers out west, and then we saw about 45,000 farmers at the Eastern show this year. So okay, moving more to a marketing question, and maybe I'll put this one to Walter, but I guess working with farmers and selling to farmers, what do kind of farmers expect, or what has worked for you to help increase sales of your equipment? Oh, and he might have just walked out as soon as I asked that. So if somebody else wants to take that question away, Paul, Eric, or Nick.
For sure, being readily available and having a sales team that gets back to somebody, that's a pretty key thing. And what we're dealing with is equipment and people, so there's always going to be a problem. So being there, you know, to deal with it and having the ability to make it right is a huge thing. You'll always get someone coming back that way.
Yeah, and I think Eric had a really good point in his opening. It's also about the parts and the service. So as a farmer myself, when we're looking at, you know, maybe equipment that has been imported from Europe, we want to make sure that we can get parts fast and we can get service fast, because when we are harvesting out in the field, we can't wait a few days to get our combine, let's say, up and running. We need to get it fixed as quick as possible so we can keep going. So Walter, I'm going to throw this question at you too, but when you sell to farmers, what kind of question, or what do farmers expect from you, kind of information wise, or farmers to help increase your sales of equipment?
Sorry, was that for me?
Oh, no, Walter, sorry. I think he's trying to unmute himself here.
Okay, sorry, I didn't, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, no problem. So advice on what do farmers expect, or what has worked for you to help increase sales of equipment? So if they're looking to sell to Canadian farmers, what is some advice that you can share?
One of the big things that we do is we demo quite a bit. So if we have a machine on the yard, or we can bring it to the farmer and say, here it is, try it out, compare it to what you're using currently. Those are some great things. And I just want to go back to another thing that you were talking about the Italian dealers getting distributors in Canada. I think a lot of them, like we were at that trade show as well, and we handed out our business cards. I think a lot of them, they send an email out, not realizing that it might just end up in our spam as a Canadian company. So it's good to have that, like Eric was saying, that communication as well.
Yeah, for sure. Great point. I'm going to take the question from the chat here, and I'm not sure if anybody is going to be able to answer this, but any information about product insurance in Canada, or then eventual products re-exported to the US? Does anybody have some experience on product insurance? Okay, that's one question we might have to follow up on. And maybe I'll get James to kind of note that, and we can follow up afterwards. Is anybody aware of any programs dedicated to agriculture manufacturing in Canada? Any programs that you guys are taking advantage of, or? No, I'm seeing some no. Walter's no. Nick, are you familiar with anything? No. Okay, so that might be another question we also have to follow up on. Going back to kind of the process of coming into Canada, and this one might go back to Nick, but some questions around like certifications, which are required, kind of general requirements and standards entering Canada.
Yes, that's very important. For the respirators that we sell, very early in the game, we applied for and got NIOSH approval. And without this, we would not be in business today. Any good respirator today will have a NIOSH TC number on it. And because we started this process almost 30 years ago, we're quite well versed in it. If we were to start out today to try and get NIOSH approval, you'd probably blow about $100,000 just hiring an engineering firm to do your application. And so it's pretty prohibitive. But without these certifications, you could not legally or safely enter the respiratory protection business. So I would look into obtaining certifications if the industry that you're entering does require them for safety or liability.
Yeah, really good question there. Kind of going back to the products that we're interested in, another question that was submitted prior was, we are experiencing a trend of data collection and monitoring through satellite IoT techniques for reaching remote, non-connected areas. are you considering those technologies in Canada? And I would say ag tech has become quite a large, important thing here in Canada, but maybe I'll let a few of you guys talk about kind of your experience with kind of how technology has been changing maybe the agriculture manufacturing world. Who wants to take it? Paul, has technology changed irrigation much for you?
Yes, but I don't know about on the manufacturing side, but definitely to the end user, everything's on their phone now. Biggest story we had was a guy who used to have to go to the field 66 times a day to make sure his machine was up and his machines, multiple machines, that was 3 trips a day. And now he can do it from his phone. And that alone, the savings he could exponentially see. And but I just don't know on the manufacturing and what technologies may be there. There are lots of government programs, but again, I don't know any about on the manufacturing end. But if you're using water more efficiently, they'll pay X percentage. If you're trading in wheel lines, for example, for something more efficient to use water, they'll pay a large portion of that, which we in our presentations know what it is and help apply for that. But again, I don't know anything on the manufacturing side when it comes to that.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul. Anybody else want to add to that? Okay. We've got about 5 minutes left. So if you have any questions that you want to ask these 4 experts, please put them in the chat now. I'm going to kind of start wrapping it up. So I'm going to let everybody kind of just say any tips that you want to share with our Italian friends today to leave them with. So I'm going to start with Nick.
Again, I just want to emphasize to reaching out and sharing the cultural aspect of Italy, because I was greatly welcomed by our Italian suppliers when I first went to Italy, and this really broke the ice and helped me understand the country, understand the methods of business, where they came from for product design. I can't emphasize it more, to really reach out and share the Italian culture with potential customers.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. Walter, anything that you want to share with them to kind of wrap up today?
I would say the same is to build a relationship, build trust. And we've had some suppliers come to Canada as well. We've shown them around here. And I would say the same, that when we were in Italy, they were very welcoming and showed us around. And it was it's good to build that relationship and build that trust.
Yeah, I think the Canadian agriculture industry is really built on relationships and trust, and it's very important if you want to do business here. I guess also Walter, Paul, Nick, and Eric, if you guys are, and I'm sure James can probably do this afterwards, or Marco, but would you be okay sharing, I guess, your contact information with the people in this call if they want to reach out to you directly? Maybe if you just want to add that to the chat or whatever, that would be great. Paul, kind of final words there. Oh, you're on mute.
As I'm the one talking about technology. Yeah, I would reiterate the same thing. EMA was the first event that I was able to go to and start to look, but the people and starting the relationships was really good, and something upon which we know each other now and can put a face to it, and so at least help start it, so that coming over, continuing to go back over, that kind of thing, and building those relationships would just help cement any dealings in the future. Awesome.
And Eric?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to go over and see EMA as well. One thing I really liked about it is being able to just see the product in person. You see the quality, you see the welds, you see what that product actually is. So that I found that as a huge advantage for myself. But one other thing is to help find a distributor too, and how we've found a couple of other manufacturers that we've started dealing with is they've actually talked to ones we already have, so they can find out the relationship we have with them and how we deal with them as a company.
Yeah, that's really important. And I think seeing and touching the product, and I think Walter talked about this too, but as a farmer myself, I want to be able to demo it in my field. I want to be able to touch, feel, see that piece of equipment before I make any purchasing decisions. So I know companies who maybe come over and try to sell their product without having the product here in Canada. It's really hard for a farmer to kind of visualize how that could be.
Breaking a new product into a market, it doesn't happen overnight. So you need that time. And if we have to buy it up front and then try to do a legwork of trying to sell it, it makes it a little difficult. So putting good terms on it is always a good thing to do too.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, now we've got a whole bunch of questions in the chat that I'm going to quickly take here. Francisco, I just sent you 2 links for Ag in Motion, Canada's Outdoor Farm Show. They're July and September annually. Any of our panelists, if there's any other shows that you guys highly recommend to go to, any shows that you guys would recommend out there?
There's also the Quebec show, Expo Champs. It's actually only there's a week between the one in Ontario and the week there, so it would be beneficial. You could hit both, and you hit 2 different markets, but you got to know a little bit of French.
Yeah,
the Red Deer show out west here is very large too, and I've never been to anyone's out east, so but that is a large one that people go to around this area.
Yeah, and that's kind of a winter one. It's Ager Trade. I'll send that one in the link here as well. Another great show that we tend to attend every year as well. Okay, next.
There's actually an East Coast show happening at the end of this week right now in Moncton. A couple of our sales guys are out there.
There's so many shows and conferences in Canada. I think our team, because we are in the event business, we try to hit them all up, and it seems like every week somebody on our team is at a conference or a show. So I would just recommend, if you're going to come, probably try to come in the summer months or the growing season, because you're really going to get to understand Canadian agriculture, especially for Western Canadian agriculture. You probably don't want to come when there's snow on the ground, but that's my 2 cents there. Okay, next question here. In order to monitor the market, is there data from the registration records of agriculture machinery, specifically tractors? Does anybody know the question to that, answer to that? Okay, we'll follow up with you on that one. Does anybody know which are main technical certifications needed or required for mechanical products parts to export to Canada? Nobody, does anybody know the answer to that? No. Okay, we're going to follow up with some of these. Last question here, but concerning orchards and vineyards, what is the trend in use of chemical agents for weeding control? Is it increasing or decreasing? I don't think we have any. Does anybody work with orchards or vineyards?
Yeah, we do a little bit. There's a small pocket in Niagara Falls. They don't have the stipulations. I actually found out in Italy, you guys are going to totally not using stuff for weed control, and they had to figure out ways to adjust for that market. But here, I don't have those stipulations yet. Yeah.
I think it might come in the future, but right now it's not there. Next question, do you have subsidies for electrical machinery or 4.0 technology? Not that I'm aware of, but anybody else aware of anything? Okay, hearing none, we will also, I'm sure, follow up with some of this. I'm hoping James is taking notes on some of this for me. And then Andrea, is there a market for small agriculture machinery as well? Eric, do you want to?
I do. Yeah, there's definitely a market for that as well. It's just it's not as prevalent. Like there is the small hobby farms that would still buy that kind of stuff, but the more commercial grade stuff, they've all gone bigger.
Yeah, I would agree. Oh, thank you, Fabio. So AEM provides monthly data for registration of tractors and combines in Canada. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, well, with that, I would just like to thank Eric, Walter, Paul, and Nick for joining us this morning to share their expertise in Canadian kind of manufacturing and distribution. I'm sure if you want to reach out to any one of them, you can find them online, or James or Marco can get you their contact information. So I'm gonna hand it back over to Marco to close it up.
Thanks, Caitlin. This has been very informative, and we put a name with a face, a face with a name, so that's very nice. And we are already getting requests to follow up by manufacturers in Italy. There is of course a lot to do to build a brand and a reputation and a presence in a country of this kind. So I mean, it takes patience, it takes investments, and I think the trade show EIMA or EIMA, as somebody has called it, I mean EIMA in Italy, is very, very very good occasion to meet up and establish relations. But of course, we all know that it's going to take place once again in 2024. So what do we do in the meantime? That's the question. And we are actively considering some programs in 2023, which might include also a roadshow, which might hit one of these many shows, including possibly one of those that were mentioned today. We'll see what's the right time, and especially if Italy, the headquarters, approve this idea and put it on the ground. But I know that there is expectation, because there is a similar experience, which was successful in the US this year, and so there is a precedent, so to speak. So something that we can build on. We also send companies, the delegates from Canada and other countries, of course, to trade shows in Italy that might be different, other trade shows, not necessarily EIMA, but also other ones that are more specialized, more like niche shows. And then we are here all year round. So, I mean, we can connect. That's our job. I mean, our job is to connect, and together with the association, together with interested companies, professionals of several kinds. I mean, but we specialize in marketing, okay? But we connect on the ground all year round, so we can help both sides. I mean, we can, if the Canadian side is looking for something specific, we can point them to producers or sellers or engineers for systems and services and solutions that are not necessarily only a product, and vice versa. I mean, of course, we do that in Canada with our office. So we're very happy to help from that point of view. And with this said, I mean, I thank the over 40 people who were here in this webinar for the occasion. All the speakers, I will not repeat their names, but really, I'm really thankful for your time, and we hope that we can get together in any way, soon in 2022 and 2023. Thanks all, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody.
Ciao.
Thanks. Ciao. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.